Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Okay, so we're diving into a murder mystery today.
Ooh, a murder mystery.
Yeah, and get this, it all goes down in like this picture-perfect seaside town called Port Larkspur.
Oh, I love a good seaside mystery.
Right. But this one, it's got like this whole extra layer to it.
What do you mean?
Well, so it's not just about like who doing it. It's about art, ambition, and like all the dark stuff that can bubble up underneath a community. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, think about like the art world. It can be super cutthroat.
Exactly. And that's kind of where we're headed with this deep dive.
So where do we even begin with something like this?
So our main source for all this is Eyes on the Edge.
Documentary.
Yeah, it's all about this filmmaker, Claire Ellis. She goes back to her hometown, like Port Larkspur, hoping to do a film about the art scene there.
Makes sense, small town art scene kind of thing.
Right, but then she ends up stumbling into like this whole murder investigation.
Whoa, so she gets way more than she bargained for.
Big time. And the crazy thing is, it all starts during the town's summer festival, you know, like the one they do every year.
Oh, yeah, like a big town celebration.
Exactly. Everyone's out, artists is showing their work, the whole town's like buzzing with energy, and then boom, a body washes ashore.
No way. Talk about a mood killer.
Seriously. So the victim's name is Emma Lawson. She's this young, super talented artist.
So is she like a local?
Totally. She'd been making a name for herself in Port Larkspur's art scene.
Mm-hmm.
But her style, it was a little edgy.
Edgy how?
I'm thinking like bold, modern, kind of provocative, you know, not exactly what the town was used to.
Ah, so she was like shaking things up a bit.
Yeah, and that's where the trouble starts because not everyone was thrilled about Emma's success.
I can imagine, especially in a small town like that, people can get pretty territorial about their scene.
Totally. And our sources, like, they really paint this picture of growing tension in the weeks leading up to Emma's death.
So it's like this idyllic town on the surface, but underneath there's all this resentment brewing.
Exactly. It's like that saying, right? Still waters run deep.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And then Emma turns up dead. The autopsy confirms its murder, and suddenly everyone in Port Larkspur is a suspect.
Okay, so who are we looking at here?
Well, Eyes on the Edge, along with some police interviews and forensic reports, they all point to a few key players.
Okay, let's hear it.
So first up, we've got Lillian Turner. She's like this well-respected but kind of reclusive artist.
Okay.
And get this, she was actually Emma's mentor at one point.
Oh, wow. So there's a history there.
Yeah, and our sources, they suggest that Lillian wasn't exactly thrilled about Emma's success. You know, imagine, like, you're this big artist in town.
Top of your game.
Right, and then your protege comes along and starts stealing your thunder.
Yeah, that's gotta sting.
It's like a total Shakespearean drama, right?
Yeah.
And it gets even juicier because there was this huge public fight between them at an art gallery, like just days before Emma's death.
Okay, hold on, back up. What art gallery?
Oh, right. Well, this is where things get interesting. The gallery is owned by our next suspect, Mark Doherty.
And who is this guy?
He's like this charming, successful gallery owner, and he's close to both Emma and Lillian.
Oh, so he's right in the middle of this whole rivalry.
Exactly. And the documentary, it even hints at a possible romantic connection between Mark and Emma.
Whoa, hold up, a love triangle.
Well, it's not confirmed, but either way, his relationship with both these women definitely puts him on the radar.
Okay, so we've got a jealous mentor, maybe love triangle gallery owner. Who else?
Well, we can't forget about Peter Cole. He's another artist in town, and let's just say his career wasn't exactly thriving while Emma's was skyrocketing.
Oh, I can see where this is going.
Yeah, Peter, he did not hide his bitterness about Emma's success. Some witnesses even said they heard him making some pretty nasty comments about her work.
Like what?
Like he said her art was going to ruin the town, something like that.
That's creepy foreshadowing.
Right. And then there's Julia Tanner.
Who's she?
She was Emma's childhood friend. They had a falling out, though.
About what?
It sounds like Julia felt abandoned by Emma when Emma started focusing on her art career.
Oh, so like the classic friend gets left behind thing.
Pretty much. In the police interviews, they show just how much anger and resentment Julia was holding on to.
So she's a suspect too.
Oh, yeah. Especially because she disappeared from Port Larkspur right after the murder.
Okay, so we've got a jealous mentor, a gallery owner mixed up in a love triangle, a bitter rival, and a troubled friend, each with their own secrets and reasons to want Emma gone.
Yep. And that's where the forensic evidence comes in. They found DNA under Emma's fingernails, and guess what? It was a match to Peter Cole.
Whoa. So he was at the scene of the crime?
Looks that way, but like with any good mystery, there's always more to the story.
Oh, I bet there is. This is already so juicy.
Oh, just wait. It gets even better. So Peter's DNA is right there at the scene, but the investigators, they aren't jumping to conclusions just yet.
Smart move. There's always more to the story than meets the eye, right?
Right, and that's where Claire's documentary, it really shines a light on things. Her interviews, they start to reveal all these hidden resentments that were simmering beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect town.
It's like peeling back the layers of a perfectly painted canvas, right? You start to see the messy, the chaotic strokes underneath.
That's such a good analogy.
Mm.
So let's talk about those interviews.
Mm.
What did Claire uncover about Lillian? Remember she had that public blow-up with Emma, and she seemed really bitter about Emma's success?
Oh, yeah. Lillian's interviews, they were intense. She wasn't just professionally jealous. She felt betrayed by Emma, like Emma was rejecting everything Lillian had taught her.
So it was personal.
Definitely. And remember those paint splatters on Emma's clothes? The ones that matched the colors Lillian used?
Oh yeah, could that be evidence of a fight? Like a physical altercation?
The police definitely thought so. They grilled Lillian about it, but she insisted she was home alone in her studio all day.
But she wasn't, was she?
Nope. They found traces of sand and salt water on her paintbrushes and canvases.
So much for being a recluse.
Right. It seems like our solitary artist had a little secret outing that day.
Motive and opportunity. It's not looking good for Lillian. So what about Mark Daugherty? Did his alibi check out?
Actually, yeah, his alibi was solid. Multiple witnesses placed him at the gallery during the whole festival.
Oh, so he's in the clear.
Well, not so fast. Remember, Claire's the one who digs deeper than anyone else. And what she found was that Mark's relationship with Emma, it was a lot more complicated than he let on.
Wait, are we talking about the love triangle again?
It definitely seems that way. There were whispers of a romantic connection, even jealousy on Mark's part.
So even though his alibi checked out, he's still got some explaining to do.
Right. His emotional ties to both Emma and Lillian, they add a whole other layer of intrigue to this case.
Okay, so let's go back to Peter Cole. We know his DNA was at the scene, and those threatening comments he made weren't exactly helping his case.
Yeah, Peter's story, it started to fall apart the more the police dug into it.
How so?
Well, his alibi for the time of the murder, it was flimsy at best. He said he was alone in his studio, but no one could back him up.
So we've got a shaky alibi, a history of bad blood with Emma and his DNA at the crime scene. You'd think that would be enough to arrest him, right?
You'd think so, but the investigators, they weren't convinced. They had the physical evidence, but they were missing something.
What do you mean?
It's like they had the pieces of the puzzle, but they couldn't quite figure out how they fit together. They needed to understand the why, how the emotional core of the crime.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Mm.
What happens next?
Well, remember Julia Tanner, Emma's childhood friend who skipped town?
Oh, yeah. Did the police ever find her?
They did, and her interview, it's like a bombshell. It changes everything.
Okay, I need details.
So Julia, she finally breaks down and tells the police everything.
What did she say?
She admits that she went to see Emma on the day of the festival. She wanted to try and fix their friendship, you know?
It's sad, right?
Huh.
Like their friendship, it just completely unraveled.
It really is. So Julia, she goes to see Emma. She's still hurt and angry about feeling abandoned, and she wants Emma to acknowledge her pain.
But Emma, she was so caught up in her own world.
Yeah.
Her art, her success.
Right, and that's exactly what happened. Julia said that Emma just brushed her off like she didn't have time for her problems.
Oof, that's gotta hurt.
Totally. So they start arguing, it gets heated, and it all happens on the beach, the same beach where they found Emma's body.
Wow, this is giving me chills.
I know, right? It's like this beautiful, idyllic setting, but it becomes the backdrop for this horrible tragedy.
So what happened during the argument?
Well, according to Julia, it got physical. She pushed Emma in a fit of rage.
Oh, no.
Emma stumbled backward, hit her head on a rock, and lost consciousness.
Oh, my God.
Julia thought she'd killed Emma, and in that moment of panic, she made a terrible decision.
What did she do?
She strangled Emma.
She strangled her.
Yeah. Julia said she didn't mean for any of it to happen. It was a horrible accident that spiraled out of control.
So was Julia all along?
It seems that way. She confessed to everything, and the police, they finally had their answers.
I mean, it's just so sad,
Yeah.
you know? Like they were childhood friends, and it ends like this.
It really makes you think about how fragile relationships can be.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Julia, she confesses, takes a plea deal for second-degree murder.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to her? Does she go to jail?
Oh, yeah. She ends up serving time, but that's not really where Claire's documentary ends, you know?
What do you mean?
Well, she doesn't just focus on like the crime itself. She goes deeper. She explores what happens to everyone after, like the whole town.
Oh, wow. So like the aftermath.
Exactly. Like, how do you even begin to heal after something like this?
That's a good question. So what about Lillian Turner,
No.
Emma's mentor, the one who was so jealous?
Lillian, she goes through some major changes after all this. It's like she finally sees how destructive her jealousy was.
So she has a change of heart.
Big time. She starts mentoring young artists in Port Larkspur, but this time it's different. She's like super supportive, encouraging, nothing like how she was with Emma.
Wow, so she takes all that pain and turns it into something positive.
Exactly. Like she's trying to make things right.
That's amazing. What about Mark Doherty, the gallery owner?
Yeah.
Remember, he was caught up in that whole love triangle thing?
Yeah, Mark, he's devastated by Emma's death, and he decides to honor her memory in a really special way.
How?
He starts this annual art festival in Emma's name. It becomes like this huge event where they showcase all these up-and-coming artists.
That's beautiful.
It is. It's like he's taking all that grief and using it to create something good, something that supports the art community in Port Larkspur.
So both Lillian and Mark, they find ways to kind of redeem themselves. But what about the town itself? Does Port Larkspur ever really recover?
It's actually pretty inspiring. They don't shy away from the tragedy. They face it head on.
So they don't try to pretend it never happened?
Nope. Instead, they use it as a catalyst for change.
Like how?
Well, Claire's documentary, it starts this whole town-wide conversation about the art world, about mental health, about ambition, and the pressures that come with it.
So they're actually talking about the things that led to this tragedy.
Yeah, and they start taking action too. There are support groups for artists, workshops on mental health awareness, even open mic nights where people can express themselves through art.
It's like they're rebuilding their community from the ground up.
Exactly. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It's not just about a murder, it's about the resilience of the human spirit. It's about finding hope and healing even in the darkest of times.
I love that Emma's story. It's a reminder that darkness can exist anywhere, even in the most beautiful places. But it also shows us that even after tragedy, there's always a chance for growth, for change, for something better.
Absolutely. And that's something we can all hold on to.
Well said.
Yeah.
So there you have it, folks. Another deep dive complete. But the conversation doesn't end here. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep looking for those glimmers of hope, even in the face of darkness. We'll see you next time for another journey into the unknown.